I'm Sam Rose, and you're tuning in to Commerce is Chaos, the podcast for consumer brand founders who know that building a business is messier than the highlight reel shows. Your supplier just missed their deadline, your top product is out of stock, and your competitor somehow launched the same thing at half the price. Sound familiar? Every week, we dive into the real problems that keep founders up at night, from inventory disasters to supply chain nightmares, because surviving the chaos is what separates brands that fail from brands that scale. Okay. Thank you and welcome to Commerce is Chaos. It's been a minute since I recorded an episode, so I'm so happy to have you here and to be kicking off this next season in just like with such an amazing guest. So thank you for taking your time. I know you're super duper busy. I am a lucky gal.
Thank you for having me. And I got the prep questions and I'm very excited for this conversation, I will say.
Amazing. Okay, well, let's get right into it. So you built Bulletin, which was
Yes.
a B2B wholesale marketplace. I was a customer. You were so young, by the way. I also started a business very young. How'd that can go for you?
A child. Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking, but I also feel like I wouldn't have done it unless I was that kind of naive and optimistic and just like open road ahead.
Yeah.
It was great. I mean, I think what was so beautiful about starting a company that young is like you can really tell yourself if all else fails, I'll just go back to X, right? I was like the number one salesperson at the tech company where I worked. And I told myself if this doesn't happen, like if we don't hit certain KPIs or we don't see a certain amount of momentum here, I'll just go back to enterprise sales. So in that way, it was a very freeing time to take that risk. But I don't know what your experience was like starting your business young, but I definitely think from an emotional regulation standpoint, was not fully baked. So a lot of the highs and lows of entrepreneurship, the anxiety, like the imposter syndrome, the negative self-talk, I just hadn't been in the ring for long enough to know how to properly manage some of those inevitabilities.
Yeah.
So yeah, it made it easy to take risks, but like quite difficult to deal with some of the volatility of the entrepreneurial journey.
Now that you're saying that, I remember feeling all of those things.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I feel older now and more durable.
Definitely.
I have like more emotional fortitude, but I remember at the time taking so many things so personally. Like I really just, I was like selling spatulas, but I took it so personally and I really felt like I was, like fighting for something, better cookware. And yeah, and when I would get hurt kind of easily, like if we lost,
Hmm.
I hated to lose. And at the time I'm like, this is good. I'm taking it personally. That means I'm going to like, commit and invest and like not give up. But I think if I was my current self, putting my arm around my little self,
Yeah.
I would say like, it's not, I mean, make it a big deal if you need to make it a big deal, but like, don't take it too personally.
Yeah, and like you'll get through it, and I think just being able to still like enjoy your night or enjoy your weekends and not have it dictate your entire mood.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really cozied up to the anxiety of the entire experience, and I think now it would be so different.
So different. Yeah. I'm better at compartmentalizing now
Mhm.
than I was.
Mhm.
Although we're in a story for a beer or another conversation. We're in a little bit of a scrap with with a counterparty, I'll say.
Mm.
And it was my daughter's ninth birthday the other day. And like I just got the most disruptive email, like right before, cake time. And I just was right back in it, just like, oh man, like, and
Yeah.
I have to
It
respond to this right now. And I got a customer that's upset and the whole thing and stuff like that still gets me.
Well, that's the nature of the beast, but it's what we sign up for, the high highs and the low lows and like the getting the crappy email before this celebration and
Ugh.
the learning to emotionally regulate in those moments is something I wish I could like put in a pill and gift to founders in their 20s. I just wish that I had learned that so much sooner.
That you know what? Even if it was a placebo, that would be really cool.
Yeah,
Just
yeah, just let
like,
me think that I'm doing it.
"All right, bye, guys. Allie and I are starting business."
Yeah, off we go.
Off we go. Oh, man, what would we call it? All right, well, we'll talk about that later too.
Yeah,
But I do think, yeah, just some sort of placebo pill for, like yeah, it could have magnesium in it or something that made you calm, actually. But
ashwagandha.
yeah, but the wrapper is just like, "Chill the fuck out. It's gonna be
Yeah,
okay."
yeah, you will survive. It's just a company.
Right. It's just business. Okay, so you're building Bulletin, you sell it. You sell the
Mhm,
emerald.
mhm.
Great exit. I mean, and also congratulations. That would probably transformed your life, no doubt.
It did in some ways. I mean, I think for me, Alana and I were so scrappy, and I was just telling someone this over the weekend, like, we definitely, especially as Bulletin grew, um, we understood how important it was to have the right people on the team, and so we would, like, shrink our salaries so we could keep certain people on the team, like, when, the business needed us to do that, like, COVID was obviously very tough. So there were some years I was making 45K, some years I was making 100K salary as a founder, but it was 7.5 years of really just crossing your fingers and hoping and praying through hard work every day that there's like a financial light at the end of the tunnel. Um, and for me, there was. Um,
Yeah.
it is interesting though, like, we sold for 10 million. We raised a bit under that. It's not like the watershed exit that our investors may have wanted. And it's not like a watershed exit that gets a lot of press, but I work hard to contextualize it and be like, I started that company at 24. I did not come from a technology background,
Yeah.
pivoted 3 to 4 times and just fought in tooth and nail to stay alive and to build something that was accretive and something that like actually drove value for our customers and drove value for in the market and had market relevance. And so to actually get there on the other side of what felt like such a torturous, like confusing 7.5 years of like trying to make that happen. I'm super proud of it. And everyone on the team got jobs. Some
Yeah.
people on the team made a bit of money from the exit. Some later investors did okay. So it's just funny though how like you
Yeah.
can say like, oh, I sold a company for $10 million, and to the average person that doesn't know about VC, they're like, that's crazy. And
Right.
then to
You made
to
$10 million.
yeah, well, all not that. But then to like someone in venture capital, they're like, and so what? They're like, your
Right.
investors must be pissed at you.
Thanks,
So
bro.
yeah, you have to find your own definition of success.
So true. So true. I mean, which goes back to the first thing we were saying, just like you have to kind of really become durable as a person to
Yeah.
like survive the journey. And I mean, to make sacrifices like that along the way of just like, trading your own salary to like create a job for somebody else or maintain a job for somebody else is
Yeah.
so they don't tell you this, like that you're gonna be doing that. And then, you're looking at, I don't know, payroll's gotta run and you look at it and you're like, okay, oh, I still want to be here. So like I just gotta make
Yeah.
it happen.
Yeah. You're moving numbers around and you're like, I don't know how long this kind of shrinkage is gonna be the case for me.
Yeah.
But you have to delude yourself into, there's a pot of gold at the end of this
Oh,
rainbow. And you don't know how big it's gonna be, but I'm very glad that we stuck it out. That said, I think every founder wants to quit multiple times.
yeah.
And so I'm very grateful to Alana, my co-founder, who was worlds more resilient than I was, and who was definitely the voice being like, keep it together. Like we're staying in the game.
Like, it's gonna be okay.
Yeah. Yeah. She was like the roots of our tree, 1,000%.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so valuable to have someone like that that can just be, especially if it's a friend, like be in the mix with you and just understand the full context of what you're going through without having to have it filtered or storylined or altered. And
Yeah.
you get really you get the most positive and critical feedback in that way.
Yeah.
And I don't just mean feedback like, hey, here's how you're doing, but like as a literal feedback loop, almost like a neural feedback loop of like,
Yeah.
how am I going to regulate?
Yeah.
you
No,
know?
I credit her immensely to a lot of learning how to regulate, and just
Yeah,
having her as a partner, as a friend, as a role model, leading with her. It's been one of the defining experiences of my career in the
that's
best way.
beautiful. Oh, I love that. That's actually really beautiful.
Thank you.
Um, Take us through like the next chapter. So you sell
Mhm.
and since then you've been doing like some incredible stuff. I mean, and maybe stuff that no one would have predicted either.
Yeah.
Will you tell us what you're working on now?
Yes, I went a little bit rogue. But listen, I think like in the context of me, myself, and I, like when I think of my story, it makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
I think building a B2B business, and for me, I ran all things growth. And I eventually replaced myself with a CRO as the business matured. But I'm a very creative person. I did all of our, brand voice and comms and PR and marketing and social, because for a long time before we pivoted to B2B, getting the consumer's attention and investment in our stores, when we had stores like
Yeah.
and our online business, like that was how we grew. When we decided to do the wholesale marketplace, I had to learn a completely new set of skills. I had to go back to enterprise sales, basically, which is where I started my career. I had to learn performance marketing. I had to learn referral loops. It was just a whole new experience for me that was not, it was creative in the sense that it was very strategic and very problem solving.
Yeah.
But there's no there's no colors, there's no storytelling. At a certain point it does become a bit rinse and repeat. And so after the exit, I wrote a fiction book. I had started writing the book while we were building the business, just as like a little creative outlet. Because as I said, so much of that creativity had gotten sapped from my day to day role at Bulletin. Um, and I launched it myself in 2025. That's a lot of what I did last year. I brought it to market myself. I made a really innovative movie style trailer to promote the book as a way to kind of break through the noise. Like every market is so saturated right now. Like, how do you make people pay attention to your
Yeah.
book? And I wanted to build a visual world. I did a lot of innovative stuff on TikTok. Hold on one second. My boyfriend's just coming home.
Hey, boyfriend.
I'm on a podcast, honey. Do you mind just like dealing with shrimps barking? Thank you. Okay, I can pick it up. He's
I
like
got
not a
one of those
barky
too.
like a not a barky dog, but he always says hi when his
Yeah,
dad
but then he
comes.
knows when you're busy, and so he's like, then he gets
Exactly.
attention. Yeah, totally.
Um So yeah, I did a ton of innovative stuff on TikTok. I did these like POV style videos where I had actors like cosplaying as characters in the book.
Cool.
And I did like this cool editorial shoot with actors playing the characters to bring the characters to life. I did a really thoughtful gifting campaign. And so just kind of taking my years of brand building and go to market and applying it to my own product, in which
Yeah,
case, this fictional world and this story that I had written. And what I've also been doing is I specifically help brands grow. With Bulletin, it was helping them increase their distribution, getting into retail stores all over the US and Canada. And I continued to do that for a while. I helped, one brand create a relationship with Ulta, for example. And so, helping other brands like figure out their independent retail strategy. But I really started to notice that the new retailer is the influencer.
yeah,
A lot of influencers through affiliate platforms like ShopMy, which is my expertise, are driving crazy D2C revenue for these brands. And so I decided to become an expert on that new retailer, which is, the affiliate seller, the influencer,
yeah.
and help brands build programs that kind of activate that new area of distribution. So I've been doing that for the last year and a half. And that was sparked by before working on my book. one of my clients approached me and was like, I think we should be doing ShopMy. Here's what it is. Take over this platform. We don't know what we're doing. Can you
Yeah.
figure it out? And that's a founder's dream, right? To kind of get under the hood of a software that you don't understand, figure out all the secrets, figure out how it works, figure out all the mechanics. And I drove such great results for them that I figured, okay, I can do this for other businesses. So yeah, I kind of have two parallel paths going. I'm still trying to build out my career as an author. I'm working on my next book. I have a Substack that is, thankfully growing every day. And then I'm still helping brands grow, but I'm trying to keep up with the times. I think retail is still really important, but I'm always looking at like, what are the new tools and new systems and new partners brands are using to expand. And I need to become an expert in those if I want to stay in the
Yeah.
game. And I'm always trying to stay in the game. It's never
Gotta stay
over.
in the game. I mean, you gotta build a goddamn empire.
Exactly, exactly. And I want to, I'm like, okay, I sold the first one for 10 million. I started it when I was 24. I had no idea what I was doing. I don't know that I'm ready yet to build a full-fledged business again with a team, but I really believe in learning in the in-between so that once I get the bug again, I have a thesis, I have a point of view, I have deep experience in what marketing is, what brands need, kind of like what's going on in my space so that I can activate again when the time comes and be like, okay, what can I do now? What can the outcome look
Right.
like now?
I mean, it's so interesting that you say that too, because I think there's a sort of Silicon Valley trope of like, you get the degree and then you decide you want to be in tech and then you like look for a problem and or you engineer, like you engineer like a like a solution in search of a problem.
Yeah.
And my personal version of entrepreneurship has always been so much more spontaneous. Like I combust with an idea because
Hmm.
I'm experiencing some pain or some problem like so excruciatingly myself. And like I'm a really good, a fertile ground for that sort of thing. I have a lot of
Yeah.
problems, I guess. And waiting, I think what I want to tug on that you're pointing at is that sometimes that requires extraordinary patience.
Yeah.
Uh, because otherwise you're just going to start, a solution in search of the problem. And if you
Yeah.
wait for a problem to be so precise and so strongly felt that you're like, okay, no, this is a thing worth spending my single finite resource on earth, which is time, like, or
Mhm.
absolutely finite resource, worth spending my time on, then the the outcome will be better on every vector. It'll fulfill you more, it'll have more commercial success, it'll be easier to find customers for, and the whole bit. And I always kind of worry for folks who are like, you know, want to have urgency in that process. Like, do have urgency. If you want to start something, but you can't necessarily just cast about for, like, the idea. It's gotta kinda hit you in the like lightning,
Yeah.
uh, you know?
Yeah. And I think too, like there's definitely cachet around building a business and being a founder.
Sure.
Um, but I think that the again, Bulletin pivoted multiple times until we really found our sweet spot.
Yeah,
And I can totally own that like when I was that young, I didn't feel quite right in someone else's startup environment. I felt really disillusioned by like I don't know. I was like, okay, these founders can raise and do this. Like, why can't I? Like, kind of
yeah,
empowered by what I was seeing. I didn't feel good in a big, bloated corporate environment. I had started my career at Condé Nast. I didn't feel quite right there. And I can totally own now that in my early 20s, when I started my first business, the impulse was not, oh, there's a problem here that I need to solve. It was more, oh, maybe this identity and spending my time this way will feel more aligned.
yeah,
And there's a reason Bulletin had to pivot multiple times. It's because we weren't, well, I don't want to speak for Alana, but I don't, it's because there wasn't what you're saying. There wasn't that kind of like massive pull around there's this customer, they have this pain, we need to solve this pain. It was
mm,
more self-focused, at least on
yeah.
my end. And so then you end up in the throes of building a business. Maybe you've taken on capital and you're sniffing your way toward product market fit. uh, and
Yeah,
it's
cards on the table. your tech stack is held together with duct tape and prayers. If you're a brand founder or COO juggling Shopify, your 3PL portal, 3 different inventory trackers, and yes, that one crucial Google Sheet, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Orders get lost, inventory counts are fiction, and your seamless integrations break every other Tuesday. Endless Commerce changes the game. One platform for everything. DTC, wholesale, marketplaces, the works. AI-powered forecasting, real-time inventory visibility, and integrations that actually integrate. Teams like Great Jones, Food 52, and Pattern Brands already made the switch. Ready to ditch the chaos? Visit endlesscommerce.com, mention Commerce is Chaos when you reach out, and get 3 months free. Because your ops stack should be your competitive advantage, not your biggest headache. Here somewhere.
And you're going to have to do that anyway. Like I do, one chapter of my first book is like the business you start isn't the business you run. You will always evolve. You will change your business model. Like, what YouTube is started out completely different than how it started. And there's so many stories of that. But yeah, I do think a good number of people start companies from a place of wanting to be a founder or wanting to like own more of their time versus there's this pain point, there's this problem. I have a POV or philosophy or conviction around how this can be addressed, how this can be solved, and I can't take it anymore. I just have
Yeah.
to start testing out my theses.
Yeah, I just got to start.
Yeah.
And I can't take it anymore.
Yeah.
Is there anything that comes up for you in memories of like yourself operating right around that time when you kind of like made the last pivot and ultimately, put Bulletin into kind of like its, the last chapter of what it became, like insights into, the wholesale world, the B2B world, the trade show world. What was it for you that kind of came up as like oh, we got this now?
I think that there's always, well, what I will say is this. I think Bulletin always really struggled with the tension between curation and scale.
Mm,
Um, I think those things are always at odds with each other. And we always wanted to build a really compelling brand and a brand that had a point of view. A marketplace or like a software company is not supposed to like have a point of view. It's just supposed to serve as many people as humanly possible.
yeah.
Um, and I think once we let go a little bit more of being seen a certain way or having a certain amount of brand cachet, and we really focused on how do we get more people using this because that's what makes the supply and demand side of a marketplace valuable. Um, that's when we started to grow like crazy. I mean, there was a specific moment in 2021 where I replaced myself with Rachel Krug, our CRO, and I kind of handed off like a theory of the case to her where I was like, these
Yeah.
are a lot of things we haven't done that I think we should try. These are the things I think are hamstringing our growth right now. Here's why we haven't done them. You're a expert that's done this before. She had come from an exited marketplace business. I was like, if you can make the case for doing these things, let's see what happens. And we did them. And within 3 months, the company just exploded. Like our GMV was above and beyond what I had ever gotten us to.
Yeah.
And I think part of it was like really just accepting what you need to do to make the mechanics of your specific business work. And if that's a marketplace, you need an aggressive amount of supply, you need an aggressive amount of demand. You can handle merchandising and this curation experience through, filters and tooling and collections and like things within the assortment, but you shouldn't be capping the brands that can join your marketplace because they don't have the right aesthetic, right? It's like how do you bring them on, and then how do you bring the right buyers on where maybe that aesthetic is totally right for them?
Right.
And how do you build tools within the marketplace so that they can find each other? And I think that just becoming more technologically savvy, really thinking more about like recommendation systems within the platform, thinking about merchandising and like thinking about how we can solve this, user experience around curation within the experience of the marketplace versus how we're capping supply and demand.
Yeah.
Um, Changing that just completely, yeah, made the business grow really significantly in a short period.
Huge unlock. I mean, yeah, actually, and what a cool insight. Like, I don't think I've ever framed it in that way either. Like the tension between curation and scale being like, you kind of have to pick at some
You do.
point, and
You
then
do.
retrofit retrofit what in your case, you unlock the scale piece and you got to retrofit and build for how
The
does this,
brand promise,
yeah,
yeah, which
exactly.
is this is, like, more pleasant to use and whatever than, like, our biggest competitor, where it was, like, really starting to feel like Amazon and the discovery experience and some of the trust was broken. But yeah, the solution was not, "We're gonna have more curated supply," because that's not that's yeah, that's just not how you build a marketplace. I would never do that
Right.
again.
I mean, it's cute. In fact, it's really cute, but you're right. It's
It
harder to
doesn't work.
yeah, it's not even harder to scale. It's inherently not scalable.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, Tell me how that kind of flows into what you're doing now, particularly around ShopMy and kind of like enabling brands in that space, and maybe how you think about who's right for versus who's not right. How do you filter?
It is such a juicy and uh relevant conversation because ShopMy actually just changed their feature set and what you unlock as a brand at different price points looks completely different this year than it did last year. And I think it really speaks to how the creator economy is growing and changing and kind of where the leverage is coming from and who has the leverage. So I will totally admit that not every brand is right for ShopMy, especially as it exists today. So to quickly talk through the changes, last year, a brand joining ShopMy at kind of their like lower to mid-tier price point would unlock the ability to discover aligned creators and access all their analytics, how much GMV they're driving monthly, what their conversion rate is when they promote posts, how likely they are to accept gifting, and you would unlock the ability to do that discovery, see those analytics, and then also like gift them in bulk through
Yeah.
lookbooks. Now, what ShopMy is doing is saying, okay, at around that similar price point, you're not unlocking bulk gifting. You're unlocking the ability to do that same creator discovery and then pay creators to guaranteed post your brand. So, what that
Yeah.
signals to me is that the creator economy has shifted where there are so many brands now doing gifting. Gifting has really become a part of a brand's playbook.
Yeah.
Um, and there's kind of a smaller pool of performant creators that are getting hit with these gifting requests, where the only way to really ensure that you're going to get posts that feel on brand, that are thoughtful, that aren't just kind of like unboxings or little like, story clips, is to throw a creator a little bit of cash to make the kind of post you're looking for versus a year ago, 2 years ago, creators were incentivized enough by, okay, great, you sent me this cream, and I can make 20% when I post about it, so I'm going to post about it. Now that there are like 10 brands with creams, clogging up their inbox, they're thinking, which one am I going to post? It's going to be the one that's also offering me $200 in addition to the 20%.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, the performance affiliate ecosystem works if you can kind of invest as a brand at every stage of it. And so the first piece is gifting, either really thoughtful, targeted gifting if you have a higher price point or if you are a more luxury brand, or bulk mass gifting if you're at a mid to lower tier price point, if you're like a beauty or a skincare brand and your AOV is more in like the $30 range.
Yeah.
Um, the second tier is running a funnel around that gifting. So not just spraying and praying and hoping like someone posts, you have to like nurture these creators. I always have my founders like engage with these creators personally on Instagram. The brand has to follow the creator on Instagram and like act like we actually care about you and know who we
Right.
are. So you need the resourcing to do that. You need the resourcing to kind of like handle that part of the funnel too. And then the next part is, do you have budget to uh pay creators for some guaranteed posting? That can be as low as I said, like $150 for a reel or a grid mention. And do you have budget for UGC? What I do with a lot of my clients is we work with affiliates on making, static, not static, but like meta ads
Uh-huh.
and content that we can spark on the back end of TikTok. So it's not just about, okay, great, we're getting this link to their story. How do you then turn that affiliate into um, content that you can use on these other platforms? So that's really how you build like a highly performant, like affiliate program.
Yeah.
And so as a brand, it can't just be, oh, we have budget for gifting, but we don't have budget for these other things. You really do need to have budget for every layer in order for the ecosystem to perform.
I was just gonna say, like, ecosystem marketing, which is, the new kid on the block
Yeah.
for how we're talking about marketing, but it's probably been, like, the thing that has worked for decades
Yeah.
for both big brands. This feels like a micro ecosystem within the ecosystem, like a microclimate. It's
Yeah.
microclimate marketing.
It literally like, but when I tell you that it is like, it literally feels like I'm running these little, yeah, microclimates within a company's larger
Yeah.
marketing ecosystem. And they're tracking ROAS on like the UGC ads that the affiliates make, but they're also tracking like, okay, I'm paying for Allie and her team, I'm paying for ShopMy subscription, I'm paying for gifting. Like they're looking all at all of these costs, and they're looking at how many orders are coming in through these affiliates and what's the return on that.
Yeah.
But then they obviously have parts of their marketing engine running that I have absolutely no visibility into. So I'm definitely just like a little storm, you know, percolating over here, my own
Microclimate.
little microclimate.
We coined it here. We gotta write a book now.
Exactly.
Microclimate
Exactly.
marketing. Um, do you think that it would be helpful to you to have more visibility into the other microclimates, or is it like this can be fairly self-contained and efficient and like perform in its own kind of bubble?
I love having visibility into the larger climate and the other microclimates. I have one client that has like the sickest marketing analytics and ROI dashboard I've ever seen. He custom built it. He's piping in APIs from like Amazon, Shopify, Target, ShopMy. Like it's just this whole cloth custom thing that he's done that we look at pretty much every week.
Yeah.
And it's so helpful for me to see, because it helps contextualize, is the revenue that I'm driving within ShopMy, like, is that very meaningful to this business, or is this like a drop in the bucket, right?
Yeah.
Or I know that this brand is paying another UGC agency to get content, and they're telling me what the ROAS is on their ads versus the ads I'm getting from performance affiliates. That gives me a benchmark to work against. And so I think also as a founder, like I don't I'm always trying to make my brands successful. And so
Yeah.
I always like having more visibility, because if a brand, let's say, I'll give an example. One of the brands I work with, they did like a big community event in New York, and they didn't invite any of the ShopMy affiliates. And I was like, I need it. Why didn't I know about this? Like, excuse me. And so that's just that's the benefit of like, I think of giving someone like me more visibility is like, my brain is trained to connect to the dots. I will connect to the dots for you. I saw those images from that event and I was like, I am so upset because this was like such a great ROI
Lost
like
opportunity.
opportunity. And yeah, I will always be a proponent of like, tell me more, not less.
Yeah. Yeah, I find that context, I mean, the a beautiful thing. There's so many beautiful things about AI and some freaky things. But I think one of the things that I really appreciate about the AI era, I'm going to say something surprising here. It's not what you think I'm going to say about AI, is just that it has socialized this idea of like context windows for people.
Yeah.
And I've been talking for years about like there is no amount of business context for what's going on in any of our operations that's too much for me. Like I'm on every automated notification, I'm in every Slack channel, like to a fault. Cause then sometimes,
Yeah.
as a founder, you're like, well, the point of me being here is not so that I can be your nanny. Like you're good.
Yeah.
It's not that I
Yeah.
don't trust you. It's that like my algorithm works with context. And the more context I have for the entire ecosystem of what's going on, the more impactful I can be as like the free associator between one department and another to kind of
Yes.
bring things together that like that's actually literally my job is just to be the
Yes.
networker within
Yes.
and without the business. And I appreciate AI for its having better socialized this idea of like machines or algorithms, even like our brains, kind of just needing context.
A
And then having it.
million percent.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
million percent. And that's like always a big part of my discovery calls is I'm like, let's just start from the beginning. Like, tell me about your
Yeah.
brand. Tell me about what you've been doing to grow. Tell me about what you haven't touched yet. Why? I mean, I always need to orient myself before I make a single recommendation. Like I always need to anchor myself to a client's context.
Yeah. All right, I'll ask you one last question and then I'll get you out of
Okay.
here on time. Um, Curious about structural advantages versus like I think I can
Mm.
um, in sort of like creating outcomes for founders. Do you have a perspective on like how structural advantages will really can like be the cornerstone of success versus like like any other advantage?
By structural, what do you mean by structural advantage?
So that like there's structural advantages and disadvantages for certain businesses or certain founders that can really shape success or failure in a way that is almost like inherent. Like
Mm.
success or failure is baked in to this business or from the beginning, from the way that it operates.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Does it make more
So,
sense now? I can ask
well,
a different question.
I mean, let me, I guess I can answer like something that I think you're saying. Like, I mean, it reminds me a bit of like, are you building a business that has like LTV opportunity period, right? It's like Casper versus Little Spoon. I'm actually going to interview the founder of Little Spoon, which is like the biggest now, kids, they're feeding like the most kids in America of any consumer kids food company. The LTV is there. It's like, do you want wet food? Do you want snacks? Do you want, you know, this type of food? Do you want frozen food? Versus if you're building a business where there isn't that much opportunity for SKU expansion, the likelihood of the business getting as big as a Little Spoon, like they're $150 million business now, you don't have that structural advantage.
Yeah,
So I don't know if that answers your question a little bit, but
it
like
sure does. Yeah.
I definitely think that there are certain things I would think about now starting a business that I would not have thought about before because you think in spreadsheets, you think in numbers, you think about the lifetime of a customer, and you can think preemptively about like what's going to get in my way, what's going to be expensive about making this business successful. And so yeah, I definitely think that structural advantage is is equally important as mindset. I mean, it's kind of like nature nurture.
Right.
If you have a business where you can only sell to a customer maybe once or twice, it doesn't you can have all the grit and resilience and self-belief in the world, but like you're not really um yeah, you're not really gonna build a strong LTV business.
Yeah. And yeah, and it's hard. I mean, against a headwind, like a structural disadvantage that my first business had was we were selling $10 things. Like that was customer willingness to pay was $10. We maxed it
Yeah.
out. Like
Yeah.
that's where the ceiling is. And so you really have to build if you're going to survive something like that, which is sort of self-imposed. I picked that product, I picked that market. Like that was structural disadvantage that was baked into the business from before day one. And so I had to create other advantages around it, like channel advantages, our
Yeah.
ability to like, be manage complex needs for wholesale businesses and like be
Yeah.
operationally super efficient and then eventually like run our own 3PL operation and use that to offset the rent, like
Yeah.
and all of these things but like I had to build those things because we were disadvantaged from the start, like making this sort of like more inspired, but frankly emotional choice of like, this problem is so bad that I
Yeah.
must solve it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so yes, that totally answered my question, and thank you.
Yes,
Um,
of course.
Little spoon is becoming quite a big spoon, as
I
it turns out.
know. I know. I'm so excited to feature them on my Substack. Angela started the
Right.
company at 24, which is the same age I was when I started the business, and she's 36 now. And just everything I've studied up on her and everything I've read about her, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to tell this story. I mean, it's just also they just entered retail. Like they
Yeah,
grew strictly through D2C. I mean, it's unbelievable.
that's really amazing. Well, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure to chat with you. I wish we had 3 times as much time,
I
uh,
know.
as we do. Very, very last question. Where can we find you? And also, where can we follow your work and buy your book?
Yes. So my first book is called How to Build a Goddamn Empire, and it's on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, anywhere you can get books. That is me writing about my entrepreneurial journey from the trenches. A lot of entrepreneurial books or books about business are written, after your exit or after your big win. And I always found as a founder that the most helpful content came from founders that were 2 or 3 paces ahead of me, like people that had just figured out the problem I
Mm,
was trying to solve. So the thesis of that book is, let me share that advice and let me also interview 30 other business owners that might give different answers, right? So you can find that online or in bookstores. And then my second book is The Raise. It is a psychological thriller. It is about a female founder who dies in a freak accident at Burning Man, and her second in command has to run their massive company all alone and close their Series C while uncovering secrets about the company and her co-founder's mysterious death. Um, and then I'm on Substack. My Substack is called New Motives, and I'm on Instagram, and my Instagram is Ali Kriegs.
all right. Thanks, Allie. It's been so fun.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. We'll talk soon.
Talk
Bye.
soon.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Commerce is Chaos. If you're listening, I have a feeling you know just how much good leaving a 5-star review can do for a team. Drop us a review on Apple Podcasts and subscribe to Commerce is Chaos wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe to our Substack, also called Commerce is Chaos, for more good stuff and actionable tools to build your business.